how do I take the skills that I have, take the things that I know and love, and give them to someone else? Failing has a lot of lessons to offer. So I'll usually refine and tweak my process as much as possible. The question gives you the understanding of the reason as to why the tangible data and metric is off. You're paying for a service, you're paying for X, but you won't get the most of that unless you give me. I can only give you so much and only reach such a value point if you don't provide me the necessary information. If we spend all that time meeting the client where they are but staying there, we're not raising them. We're not building them up, we're not improving them. People tend to take the piss, they give me a bit of crap, they rip on me. The dollar amount isn't the reason I coach.
Hey, can I ask a little favor? If you've gotten any value out of the Coach Catalyst podcast, if you've enjoyed the guests that we've had on, the simple and free way to show that support is to hit that subscribe button. And my commitment to you is to go out and find the best coaches, do the best interviews, pull out the tips, the tricks, so that you can create the coaching business of your dreams. So if you want mine, hit that subscribe button. That allows us to continue doing what we do. Have a great day.
What's up? Welcome to another edition of the Coach Catalyst podcast. We are in season 4, and my name is Trevor Wittwer. On today's episode, I have the pleasure of speaking with Ben Mayfield-Smith. Now, Ben is my brother from down under, and it took a debilitating injury that brought Ben into our field of coaching, and I'm really glad that he came in because he is definitely a one of one. Now, Ben started in the offline world and has moved into online coaching. And one thing, as his business has grown, most coaches grow out of actual coaching. They move into other roles, but Ben knew his superpower was coaching. And so he built all of the other roles around his coaching to support what he does best, which is coaching his clients. So he's remained the main coach in his business, which is super cool. And towards the end of the episode too, we get into corporate wellness, which I think is a really interesting place for a lot of online coaches to go. There's a lot out there, and we dig into how he's doing it specifically. So I hope you enjoyed this episode with Ben Mayfield-Smith. All right, Ben, welcome to the Coach Catalyst podcast, man.
Thanks for having me, good sir.
I'm excited to have you on, and I really appreciate you getting up at the crack of dawn to record this with me. So I appreciate you.
We're in the future. It's tomorrow for you guys, so
I know.
I can tell you the weather's good.
How is the future? Is it good? Like, should I be excited or?
Man, weather's good. It's waking up. It's a nice, fresh Wednesday morning. Sun's out. Can't really complain with much.
All right. Well, for the people listening, I am in the continental United States, and Ben is in the continental Australia. I don't know what you would call it, but are there islands with Australia? Does Australia have islands?
Yeah, we do. We've got a few off the coast that we have territory control over, I believe.
Okay. All right. Well, it could be continental Australia.
A little bit like you guys. We throw our flag in a few places.
Yeah, exactly. Once you got away from the Brits.
Oh no, we're still part of them. We're still locked in. That's a lifetime deal. That one. Terrible trade.
Oh man, I love it. All right, man. Well, let's get to it. So this podcast or this season is all about really chronicling the journeys of successful online coaches. And so we're going to do that today. And I'm super excited to help share your story and you've kind of created success in a few different ways. So let's go back to the beginning. What got you into the industry? What got you excited about coaching?
Man, if we go, if we strip it right back, coaching to me happened a little after the motor vehicle accident basically threw me out of my career, threw me out of sport, threw me out of my industry back when I was about 21. So I was a tradesman, I was a carpenter, the rugby league lifestyle over here, relationship, all that sort of stuff. And I'd been playing rugby league for about 15 years at that time. And so it was everything that I'd done through high school, adolescence, juniors, basically your equivalent of little league. And so I knew that I'd always want to be involved in sport, in training, in performance. And once the accident happened, there was an immediate shift inside me that I recognized was, what do I do next? And what do I do next was also paired with, how do I take the skills that I have, take the things that I know and love, and give them to someone else? And I'd always had this sort of vision or feeling that I was going to do something that helps people more than I was going to do something that just makes money. And I think a lot of the time the conflation comes in as one or the other. And we'll get into that. But for me, it was a recognition I could no longer do what I was doing, and I was always going to be in pain. The doctors told me it was a chronic diagnosis. It was basically a lifetime disorder now. Degeneration was going to occur. And so for me, it was, if I'm going to be in pain, if I'm going to be feeling all these problems, I may as well do it doing something I love and make sure that I'm helping people along the way. And so along the process of going through court, legal battles, motor vehicle insurance, accident claims, etc., they kind of covered a re-education process. And the first thing I said was, I want to start training. I want to start training people. I want to start personal training. I want to get into that industry. And pretty much as soon as I got my credentials done, I then went straight to studying strength and conditioning, and went straight to studying as many extra credentials as I could, and pretty much just threw myself into the deep end of face-to-face training. This was back in the era where most people were actually in person and probably sent the odd program via email or printed out and handed it by a pamphlet. Excuse me. And so that was kind of where it all started for me, was, losing my ability to be able to do what I was supposed to do, or what I thought I was supposed to do, and trying to find a way where I could give back to someone else. Once I had recognized I could no longer do that thing. And training was the most sense to me, where it was a combination of helping people and doing the thing that I loved doing at the time, which was training myself and pushing myself and trying to give that to others.
So were you personally into kind of training yourself through just growing up in rugby and trying to be the biggest, fastest type player?
Yeah, so we'd always had, luckily for us, we had some pretty good programs over here. Like, we kind of similar to you guys, you have it like at the high school level. I played rugby league all the way through, played rugby league, touch, mixtures of AFL and cricket, all the way through primary school or little school, I can't remember what you guys call it. And then basically from there, moved into high school, where we actually had a rugby league program inside our school. We had a system in there that was designed to take you to that next level. It was designed to kind of play at a high level, operate at a high level, even through adolescence. So, we were, I think, 2008 state champions, which is awesome. And so we basically consistently had to be in training programs. We had some of our classes were actually about the sport. So we'd watch film, we'd watch tape, we'd do training, we'd do drills, all that sort of stuff. We do weight rooms. So we were quite blessed to have a program that we did that emphasized training, performance. There's a lot of specificity techniques that we had in there. So, our coaches pushed bench squat dead, like volume training. And then also in there was like things like power rotation work, especially for defense. So there was a good exposure to a variety of training styles and training experience that I think really contributed to just me knowing about training. And so it was something that I'd done probably since the age of 13. I wasn't always the most jacked. I was actually quite little for a kid. It was absolutely not 110 kilos like I am now. So for us back then, it was, how do I just get more power, maximize my size, my position, and my ability to tackle and defend, and sort of break away from tackle. So it was drilled into us pretty early, how to train or to start training of some sort, and that training usually led to progression. So that was, to me, probably a lesson that stuck even before I knew I wanted to coach other people, was that generally putting in effort and training turned out a result.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the cool things about training, right, is you can't fake it. No one else can do it for you. And it's a direct relationship to the work that you put in. If you put in the work, you're going to get a result, right? It's just straight physiology, right? And so you then kind of got re-educated back into the training. So you started on the training floor. And so were you just training kind of like moms and dads and Gen Pop, or were you doing more athletes? What was the training like for you?
Yeah, so I think I made the usual, and again, a big part of why we try to give so much value is I think I made the usual cliche training mistakes at the time, which was, I'm going to write all these fancy programs, periodization models, going to have percentage distributions and like predictive recovery. It was an amazing spreadsheet. I was putting this thing together. And I was like, even I was impressed by the numbers that I had on this for a guy that, was supposed to be a tradie. And it ended up getting used by about 2 people. The majority of the people that I started coaching in this facility, which is one of the biggest gyms in the area at the time, were actually just Gregs and Susans that wanted to do a 45-minute burner session, a pump session, a get in, get out. I might train 2 other times a week. And so a lot of my early exposure to coaching was actually me learning that I wasn't marketing myself to the right demographics. I wasn't in the right location. And so it was a decisional process of, do I stick with this location that I found, these people that I found that are kind of in the area, or do I want to work with the actual people that I want to work with? And so initially that brick and mortar style phase was, yes, there was a combination of a few athletes in there, but the majority were general population that had no real interest on being that level of accountable and kind of that level of discipline and programming. And a lot of the time they were just kind of coming to me for that 45-minute, hour pump session, feel the burn, feel the pain, and then kind of go home and know they've done something for their week.
Right. And was this just like a big box gym? I mean, was it just your traditional large health club?
Yeah. So in Australia, it was a gym location known as Genesis. They're a rather big franchise over here up and down the East Coast. That's where I did my work experience hours, got to meet some like the personal trainers, the training manager system. So it was kind of set up for me to walk into. And so I stepped in there and I was like, yeah, I'll take this on. And it was my first exposure to the business savvy side. Like I realized very quickly that I was not business savvy. I was luckily propped up by some of the finance that I had received from my the motor vehicle accident. So I was kind of able to afford to make the mistakes, which is again why I kind of pushed so heavily, knowing that not everyone has a payout from an insurance company to kind of help them start their business. Right. And that's where, I tried to use that money to, yes, learn and help myself and realize where I was going wrong. I had that room to kind of fail. It still wasn't great by any means. I wasn't just throwing money out the window, but it was able to sustain me enough where I could learn, hey, I actually suck at this. And, I went and did extra credentials, like I went and did an advanced diploma in business. The programming was actually dedicated specifically around fitness. So it was through the Australian Institute of Fitness and trying to help you understand how to do business well and do business as a PT, coach, trainer, etc. So that kind of let me learn the long way, churn through some money and make the mistakes of being in the wrong place, the wrong locations, and that kind of, allowed me to learn the lessons I guess I need to kind of go again and figure things out.
So, how did you get your first handful of clients? Were there any strategies that you had, or were they kind of just given to you?
No, there was a few. So in the brick and mortars over here, it's pretty common practice that we have like our sales team and we have like your face-to-face, you're on the floor PT team. And generally what happens is like leads come through. This was back in the day. Leads would come through and you would pretty much be allocated based on the client's needs or if you were present in the gym. It was just a general client that wanted to get a certain session. It'd be like, if you were there and showing face, the sales team, if they liked you, would probably give you the ticket, give them a call, book in a session, they're your client now. So I'll do a lot of that. I was basically, I just remember watching like Arnie videos, business videos. I'm watching like whatever I get my hands on about what to do for business. And so I was pretty much sleeping at the gym. I was there, 4 or 5 a.m. at the reception desk. Even if the reception desk wasn't open, I would stand behind it, pretend I was doing something just to show face and see people and people would see me, connected to that I was a trainer, I was there. Between clients, I'd just sleep in the back offices under my desk. And, I wouldn't leave the gym until 6 or 7 o'clock at night. I'd take my food there. I'd train there. I'd take a blanket and a pillow there. Any study that I was doing, I'd do there. So as much as possible, I was just showing face in the facility that I'm actually here and available for training. And then the other side was, I'd run like small group niche stuff. So at 5-10 people, there was an oval down the back from us where I'd run them for like $5. And it was kind of like a really easy way to intro myself to some of the members that, hey, I'm available to do certain things. If you just want to come and try out how I train, it's a $5 session down the park. You can jump in anytime you want. And from there, you start getting leads or a few people that come consistently and you get enough of a conversation where, they'd at least ask for maybe some extra training. Not all of them, but it was enough where it was kind of like a small lead funnel for yourself to try and crack into.
Right. That's awesome. That's a really good. And was that part of the gym or was that kind of like a separate, like, hey, I'm going to be at the park on Thursday at 5 p.m. If you want to come by, it's $5. We'll run you through a workout.
Yeah, so it was kind of like the membership was through the gym, but I basically just had my own gear as well for just doing group stuff. I'm a big believer in just having skills and assets in your trade and craft. People that aren't investing themselves in their equipment, I think, are sort of falling behind. So for me, I had at the time, knowing that I was doing face-to-face, tried to have as many just like little bits of equipment, so like, markers, ropes, tires, hammers, whatever I could sort of get my hands on. That would just be some extra credential stuff. And that sort of led me down to just the local park, and I'd just go there and say, hey, you know what? You kind of like, especially if it was a client that couldn't commit to, $50, $60 a session. You'll be like, hey, that's cool. No pressure there. I've got this other thing that I do just down the park, 5 minutes from here. You're going to be here anyway. It'll cost you $5 instead of 60. And a lot of the time, like hearing $5 instead of 60 is usually a pretty easy way to get someone in.
Right. That's awesome. I love that. And so, I mean, where you're not in the brick and mortar space anymore. And so let's kind of look at that transition. When did you decide? Because I mean, honestly, like you started training in 2021, is that right?
Or was it before that? No, we started training as Matter in 2021. We started putting out content in 2020.
Okay. When did you finish your re-education and get into the space?
Oh, that would have been 2016, I believe, was graduation. It was a 6-month program. I believe it was about 2016.
Okay.
2015.
So you spent about 4 years, give or take, in the brick and mortar world and the offline world. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So you spent about 4 years really honing skills, getting experience, working with people, right? And then what made you want to decide to like, hey, let's do this virtual online thing?
So I had a little bit of a gap in there where I was actually on the side. So I recognized that I was failing. And this is a big thing that I think people need to understand, is that failing has a lot of lessons to offer. And so I recognized that I was failing in the business side, even though I was studying, doing extra education, extra courses. I hadn't set the systems and foundations up to actually sustain and grow what I was doing. I just thought being there would get me leads. However, there was 20 PTs training out of this facility that all need to get leads, and so I was failing with no kind of enough yet. And so in between that as well, as I started to decline, rather than trying to force it back and keep digging the same hole, I then moved into the nutrition space and was managing some nutrition businesses along the way. And so in amongst that, rather than leave the industry and quit, which I know is a lot of the statistical percentage of coaches and trainers, I moved into an area that I also understood, but also to try to secure more of the business acumen and the structure side that I didn't have for face-to-face coaching. And basically in amongst that, I was still doing like online education. I was still putting out online content. It got to a point where I'd got everything that I needed from the business that I was working with, or the businesses that I was running. And I'd lost pretty much all passion and fuel for it. The amount of people who are coming through, like looking for supplementation, nutrition advice. And I realized a lot of the time they actually needed a coach. They needed someone to help them. They were asking, they were coming to 21-year-old kids asking how to improve their life and, how to lose weight and all this sort of stuff and how to drop body fat. And I realized I was no longer serving them the best way I could. And it was time to kind of move back into that space. So the period between kind of really taught me that A, I know where I want to be, but B, it gave me the extra credentials and the extra understanding and knowledge to correct what I got wrong previously. So come back to 2001, we're kind of starting again with me having a much different outlook and having a much better outlook and understanding a lot more about the system side, the data side, the numbers side, to actually operate the business effectively, sort of just crack in and get going. So it got to a point where I knew face-to-face wasn't for me. The type of people that I wanted to work with couldn't be centralized to one location. I couldn't narrow down that much and just work with the Gregs and Susans. There's anything wrong with that. But it was more, I know the person I want to work with, the people that I want to work with, and what I want to do long-term. And I was very clear on that from the minute I even started my psychology degree. I knew exactly who I wanted to work with. I narrowed down exactly what I wanted to do. and sort of how I wanted to get into that. And obviously with my partner, Brooklyn, she helped out as well. We weren't together at the time, and also we were working on a business together. She was in a background in marketing, and we basically started to identify the things that the direction we wanted to take. And then it was just a matter of pulling the trigger, like, hey, this is no longer fulfilling me, working in the store level, working in the face-to-face level. And for me to reach the people that I need to reach, we've got to go online with it. We've got to get in front of other people, greater audiences, bigger ranges, greater radiuses. You know, if we're looking at the population of elite athletes, bodybuilders, executives, they're a 1% population. The likelihood that I find a full book worth of clients in a fixed location isn't really how the law of distribution works when it comes to 1% of people. So we then, you know, kind of assess that and realize, like, I just need to be online. It needs to be the place where I was and get myself out there.
So, I mean, I think you kind of alluded to it a little bit in that last statement, but you said that you were really clear on who you wanted to work with. Who was that person? What was that niche?
Basically, it was me. If we really narrow it down, it was me when I needed the most help. And that was, you know, looking back in my past and kind of who I am and what I've done, I knew that I wanted to operate at a different level. I knew that I wanted to be different to a degree in regards to my athletics and my business and to my education. So the ideal avatar, once we started really niching down and knuckling down and understanding that, was just different versions of me, and then probably finding that at higher levels. So yeah, long term, I want to get with the elite athletes. I want to work with those guys. But the other side too is that I look back at what did I need as an athlete when I was younger, whether it be my adolescence or early 20s. Should that car accident not happened, who did I need to kind of get to that next level in my playing career, my sporting career? And that really just led to answering that question. Like, that's who I'm trying to serve. The best way that I can serve is try to help me when I need me most, because if I exist, there has to be others like me. And so that really just kind of clarified for us, like, I'm not probably going to serve the average person. Even if I do serve the average Joe Blow, it's probably going to be in a way where they're trying to excel and improve themselves anyway. Even if it's not just, you know, it might not be to the elite bodybuilder level, but it's simply the acts and skills and behaviors and habits that successful people have, they're trying to learn. And so just like that was me growing up and trying to be at that next level of athlete, I realized most of our general, like the primary avatar was going to be helping me at the stage where I needed it most in my life.
My favorite thing about Coach Catalyst.
One of the things I love most about Coach Catalyst.
There are lots of things I love about Coach Catalyst.
And the reason why I love Coach Catalyst is that
the accountability off the back of that
is simplicity.
The support is amazing.
It allows me to give so much of me to my clients.
It's the drip feeding of content.
I can schedule lessons for my clients in advance.
Game changer for freeing up time.
It gives me my time back.
It's so simple and so easy.
Hi, I'm Kane, the founder of Coach Catalyst, the #1 accountability and communication software on the market today. We help coaches just like you keep their clients accountable and scale their business beyond what they've ever been able to do before. So if that sounds like something you want, let's take a look at how we can help. So Coach Catalyst was built on the 4 C's of coaching. Those are content, communication, community, and consistency. So for content, you need to go beyond just workouts and deliver the whole experience for the client so they get the results they deserve. For communication, you need to own your communication. If you don't own the communication, you don't own the client. So make sure you stop texting clients and use a centralized platform. For communities, get off of Facebook groups and take ownership over your social group with Coach Catalyst communities. And for consistency, the foundation of all results for clients, we took the best-selling book Atomic Habits and built all these fundamentals right within our app that's going to guarantee to get your clients the best results possible. If you want to start using the 4 C's with your clients, content, connection, community, and consistency, make sure you run over to Coach Catalyst and start a free trial today.
So, I mean, you had a fairly clear idea on who it was that you're helping. So as you moved online, how did you start finding, like, where did those people live, right? Because that's, when we go online, it's a very large pool, right? We pretty much have access to anyone who has the internet. And so how did you start to narrow down, like, hey, where do these people hang out? Where do they live? How do I, communicate with them or provide value? What was that like early on?
So for us, a large part of it was simply getting content out. So like the the best way that you can attract people and you can engage people that are like-minded or similar-minded or need your help is to put out content in the realms of things that you know and start to see who that attracts. So I had a very, very, very small social media when we started. I didn't have a large following, so it was kind of like, let's just get my name out there, start giving away the information I know, because to me at the time, social media was just a thing I had for relationships, and I just had it once for, I had girlfriends at the time or something like that, and so it was never like this is going to be my thing of driving business. And then it was recognizing now that the world is changing towards the online social platforms are still a way to generate leads, generate business, but provide value and give back. And so I had no services available just yet when we started. So 2020 is when we started putting out content to build for the idea we'd be leaving in 2021. Funnily enough, though, if we speak to Cav and you go back to earlier videos, I'd planned to quit and start coaching. I think we had a 5-year plan in 2020. So by I technically, by our own goals, wouldn't have even started coaching until next year. And it got to a point where I knew that it was absolutely certain I had to do it. So we just pulled the trigger in 2021. So you go back to 2020, we didn't have services yet. What do we have? I had time, I had some knowledge, I had some information. And so we started putting that out into social media and just trying to give away, trying to give back. And what happened was, I think we went live with coaching 2021, got to that absolute pressure point where I was like, I simply cannot be in this previous business that I was in. I need to get back to helping people beyond nutrition, supplementation. And that kind of led us to just really pulling the trigger and just saying it's go time and seeing who comes in with some releasing content. We're doing podcasts at the time. We ran a podcast. I was on podcasts. We'll put out social media content, put out a few free PDFs and stuff like that on our website. So we'd already had the base going, if you will. We built some of the foundation and then really just kind of built off that. So once we said, hey, we're open for service, I think our first 5 or 6 clients came through the door. But the interesting thing I think that we started to realize was that a lot of them were local to Brisbane. A lot of them were still local to who I knew. Even though we're online, a lot of them were local in our area.
Right.
I guess I hadn't really reached that algorithm level yet where I was drawing in people from around the world, looking at different things, etc. So it's still a lot of local data and demographics. And they still weren't 100% the ideal avatar for us. So we just had to keep taking in sense of working with who I could still serve until we found more and more of the like-minded people that matched who we wanted to take care of.
And with those people early on, what was price points for you, right at the beginning for online coaching?
So we have sustained the same price point. I was $100 Australian US per week. And we gave a lot in terms of information, data, value, resources. We've always been big on the belief that over providing was a much easier way to sell than to use sales tactics, sales scripts, psychological manipulation tools. If the price point is exceeded by the value that you perceive of the product, then there should be no conflict or argument with you trying to say yes. And we're just really at that point identifying what the problem is that I can solve and need to serve you with. And there's a very little chance you're going to deny that the available value and resources inside this product will probably solve that problem. So we've maintained that same approach the entire time, and we've maintained that same price point the entire time.
So you said 100 Australian?
Mm-hmm.
Which I just did the conversion on another screen. It's like $69 US. So, okay. And so, and what were the problems that these people had that you were solving?
A lot of it was and this is where coaching gets interesting. I'm sure we're going to get into it, but a lot of the problems weren't knowledge on proteins. They weren't the Krebs cycle. They weren't metabolic functioning.
Right.
A lot of it was trying to get people to understand time management, consistency, trying to get them to structure their lives a little bit differently, recognizing that, hey, going out 5-6 nights a week, working yourself into the ground and then trying to get, 5 hours of sleep a night to make up for that isn't really how the body works. it's got to be a decisional process of trade-offs. Do you want the physique and the results you're talking about, or do you want the thing that you're talking about? Because right now you're conflicting in these areas that don't really align. And so having clarity was a huge factor for a lot of our clients. Just get them to understand what their goals were, where they wanted to go, where they wanted to be eventually, and how we work towards that, what the plan might look like. Because a lot of people just didn't have plans. They didn't have structure, routines. They didn't have systems in place. They had the big goal. They had this big idea, but they didn't really understand how to get there and what that might look like. So the initial problems, and it's been pretty consistent for us with that realm of problem identification, is less to do with nutritional knowledge, less to do with the perfect program, less to do with like how to move effectively. That stuff comes, sure, it's not always correct straight away, but for a lot of people, it's things around their life, lifestyle coaching, lifestyle management, structure, systemizations that actually started to get results. So that was a huge realization for us, for me. It actually led to a lot of content we put out, sleep consistency, the importance of sleep hygiene, how to improve sleep hygiene, stress management, stress mitigation, what stress actually is. Look at things like time management, learning to time block, learning to structure your day, learning to structure your systems. These things started actually solving more problems than whether or not I wrote an awesome 6-day program.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite thing about Coach Catalyst.
My favorite thing about Coach Catalyst.
One of the things I love most about Coach Catalyst.
There are lots of things I love about Coach Catalyst.
And the reason why I love Coach Catalyst is that
the accountability off the back of that
is simplicity.
The support is amazing.
It allows me to give so much of me to my clients.
It's the drip feeding of content.
I can schedule lessons for my clients in advance.
Game changer for freeing up time.
It gives me my time back.
It's so simple and so easy.
Hi, I'm Kane, the founder of Coach Catalyst, the #1 accountability and communication software on the market today. We help coaches just like you keep their clients accountable and scale their business beyond what they've ever been able to do before. So if that sounds like something you want, let's take a look at how we can help. So Coach Catalyst was built on the 4 C's of coaching. Those are content, communication, community, and consistency. So for content, you need to go beyond just workouts and deliver the whole experience for the client so they get the results they deserve. For communication, you need to own your communication. If you don't own the communication, you don't own the client. So make sure you stop texting clients and use a centralized platform. For communities, get off of Facebook groups and take ownership over your social group with Coach Catalyst communities. And for consistency, the foundation of all results for clients, we took the best-selling book Atomic Habits and built all these fundamentals right within our app that's going to guarantee to get your clients the best results possible. If you want to start using the 4 C's with your clients, content, connection, community, and consistency, make sure you run over to Coach Catalyst and start a free trial today.
So what were the problems they thought they had? Were they aesthetic goals? I mean, because these are the problems that you as a coach understand are the underlying problems, but what were the problems that they thought they had when they were coming to you? Was it aesthetic, lose weight, look better naked, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So you're getting the general, I'll look better naked with the light on. I want to drop a certain amount of body fat or body weight. I want to get on stage one day. I want to train for hypertrophy, body composition, fat loss, weight loss, etc.
Yep.
The sort of usual performance / aesthetic goals that one might come to for general coaching.
Okay, cool. And I mean, was a lot of your early content around that stuff? And so that was kind of who you were attracting?
It's a little bit of not a chicken with the egg. I'd say, yeah, it probably was the early content stuff. Like I wasn't big on putting out as much psychological performance stuff as I am now, because it was, I was still early into my studies. I was still early into my learning education, where, it's a risque sort of move in psychology, especially in clinical psychology, to sort of put out information before it's your time to do so. And so a lot of it was still on the things that I did know at the time, which was, body composition, hypertrophy, nutrition, fat loss, weight loss, etc. So that early phase of content, and that was where, again, understanding systems, reviews, data analysis, it was easy to pick up who we're reaching, because that was the kind of content we're putting out.
Mm-hmm. So knowing what you know now, you're 4 years into the business, right? Would you do anything differently if you were to start over again? Or if you were going to launch again, would you do anything differently?
Probably would have planned ahead or planned better for the early release. To our credit, the plan had always been a 5-year slow burn, build up content, build up knowledge, then jump back into it and get into online coaching fully and effectively, without having to go back to face-to-face. Because of the desire and the rush to get out of what I was doing and back into serving people, we probably didn't structure the opening of the systems as effectively as we could have. But at the same time, I'm a big believer in burning the boats, and once you're in. And so for us, it was kind of like there was no secondary choice. There wasn't a slow burn. There wasn't a delayed process. I had to make it work. And I knew that I knew enough. I knew that I had the baseline knowledge. I knew that I had extra credentials and certifications. I'd done a lot of studying, a lot of extra courses through like softer skills, acceptance therapy, psychological therapy practices, studied my ISSN, got my basics of nutrition, all these things that I knew, like, okay, some good ground level foundational knowledge. And so I knew that I was not serving people as best I could by taking a long time. I would learn more on the job, and I would probably feel more fulfilled, slowly replacing my previous income and getting back into the game than if I just took another 4 or 5 years. So if anything that we would probably anything we'd probably do differently would be plan shorter, meaning knowing it wasn't going to be a 5-year plan, aim for that shorter window, but then structure, an actual marketing campaign or a system campaign that is going to lead to us opening with more awareness in the market and kind of having that presence that would have been, hey, rather than taking a full year to get 10, 15 clients, it would have been day one. So that was probably our first, probably our only, not regret, but the only thing we would have done a little bit differently was probably that, so that we hit the ground running with a little bit more traction.
Right. And was the offering a one-to-one coaching program at the time? Like, was that what you launched with?
Yeah. So we've maintained pretty much a similar process the entire time. Underlying values and approaches have changed slightly. So things that we used to do was like weekly phone calls. We used to do weekly video calls with clients, weekly phone calls with clients. That actually surprised me how little people wanted it. So that was a huge value add that I thought was necessary for what we did. And to kind of have that next level approach or connection with my clients, have that next level, like psychological assistance, like, hey, how's your week? problems we're facing, etc. And so after assessing a lot of data and going through things, really, the amount of clients that followed up with and booked in their weekly call was quite little. And it was costing me more stress and time trying to take care of the ones who were having it, and the ones who weren't were getting just as good of results. So for us, it was the initial service was a lot more involvement with the client, and it was good by all means. Like the connection I maintained, I was still sort of soft skills coaching, understanding my clients quite well, but it took up so much more time, and it only really yielded the same result. And so a lot of the early phase stuff was, same one-to-one. We've just kind of really refined and mastered the process of how we deliver that one-to-one.
So was it just a little bit more like asynchronous type communication?
Yeah, to a degree, yeah. So, back and forth, we're catching up each week, going through the problems, the plans. There's still a data to fill in, but it's sort of, I could then correspond the data with what was happening to obviously the conversations with them and try to get underlying issues a little bit more at a deeper level. And one of the things that I learned was if I ask the right questions in check-ins, then I get similar answers. And it just doesn't take me an hour conversation each week of their time and my time to try and figure that out.
So, walk me through a little bit of your check-in process. What does it look like? Is it every week? Is it once a month? And what are some like sample questions that you feel are like, hey, these are the questions that give me the most information out of my check-in?
So once we moved to the Catalyst app, and I've sort of tweaked and refined my process the entire time. Like, I'm a big believer in just evolving your systems. Once you find a hiccup or a limitation or a break in the chain, it's important. Speed of implementation to me is huge for effective coaching, effective business. And so I'll usually refine and tweak my process as much as possible. The current check-in process we have now is basically daily information acquisition. So they use the app I've got a lot of boxes, actions, programs, and things that I have them do. Big believer in showing success on the screen. I want them to see and feel successful. So trying to understand trend identification and data acquisition, looking at what's going green, what's going red. Why is it going red? Is there a consistent behavior or action that I want done that's going red? And then that gives me a lot of baseline data that I can see straight off the bat. And then they've got obviously their internal metrics that I'll check for. And that's to kind of go in as many days of the week as possible. Depending on the client and where they are psychologically, I might have them do weight tracking, 3 days a week instead of 7. Or I might have them track their macros only once a week instead of all 7 days, something like that. It'll vary on the person to a degree. And then on their allocated check-in day, there is a specific form that I've created. There's still data acquisition. And then what will happen is I kind of sit down, I'll stand at the desk, and the teams that I have each allocated for each day, they'll receive anywhere from a 3 to 10 minute video back, depending on how much information they give me on the questions that I ask, aligned with the data and information and check-in photos that's available to the app that I can actually get out of them. So it's evolved over time. In fact, I literally just tweaked it only this week because one of the things I found was there was a little bit of friction point between clients tracking data every single day for stuff that I wanted them to get done. And so we put together a small form. We've just turned the daily metrics form for anyone that's listening to this that has Coach Catalyst. It was a really fantastic way to kind of break that barrier, make it even smoother than it already was. And so now all they have to do is open their phone after they get off the toilet in the morning. It'll basically ask them 5 questions: weight, sleep quality, recovery, and stress. And
are you doing the 1 to 10 or 1 to 5 type scales?
So for those ones, for the tangible metrics, those will just be straight up numbers. Yep. So sleep is total hours. Right.
Got it.
Weight is obviously just a fixed number. And then, your scales for stress, recovery, and sleep quality. Those then correspond to the actual metric. And then Friday, I will pair that with their questionnaire that will kind of indicate to me their stress levels, motivation, how training went, how their body's feeling, how good their nutrition went this week. But the big questions that really started to get me understanding them were more on the qualitative side than the quantitative side. Okay. This is where I think coaches kind of get themselves mixed up, is they think everything is sets and reps and numbers. But in the gray, when you ask the real questions, is where you start to get the answers that you need to do your job. So for us, it was, rather than drilling the client for not ticking all 10 of their boxes for the day, or say, 3 days this week they didn't get their 7 hour sleep window that I asked them to tick. Instead of drilling them for missing that sleep window, I'm asking them, hey, what's an obstacle that you face this week? And inside that answer is usually the reason that there was poor sleep. So, my cat had to go to the hospital. My kid was up with an infection for 3 days. I got given night shifts, or I couldn't use the app because we were over here in this part of the world. I didn't realize no internet. The question gives you the understanding of the reason as to why the tangible data and metric is off. If you don't ask the question, all you're going to see is that your client didn't tick boxes. And so, you can run the system that way. You can run your check-ins that way. You can still do a lot with quantitative data. But trying to actually understand as a coach what's going on in your client's life is going to provide you the understanding of the underlying information that leads to the data. And that was a huge reality for me to best serve my clients and still do that lifestyle mitigation and still evolve them from the average Gen Pop client to elite athlete or to a very high standard client, because I'm still impacting them at that life level and their relationship level and their total, socio-ecological environment level, and moving them towards that elite position they want to get to, because we're understanding more about them as opposed to just what numbers we're seeing. Another great question we add in there is what's a win for this week? And it doesn't have to be anything to do with your physique, your performance in the gym. It can be anything you want. The main reason that we do this is that I want to anchor the week that they've had to something positive. We've identified there's problem areas, we've identified that there's some things that are lacking, but at the same time, at the very crux of it, there has got to be something that is a win this week, the smallest possible thing. And it usually, as a coach, will take time to build that reflection skill and build that introspective ability. But hey, someone who has never been able to eat 300 to 500 grams or fluid ounce freedoms for you guys over in America. The idea that we haven't been able to tick, 300 to 500 grams of vegetables in their life, and now they're upset that they missed 2 days, that to me is a win. We go back and look at that and go, okay, you're upset that you've missed 2 days of vegetables, but let's look at this 6 months ago. You couldn't even get a day of 300 to 500 grams of vegetables. So I want you next week to reflect on something small and say, hey, what was the win? Because if you do that, you're going to find that you're actually building consistent habits and abilities. And now we're connecting that positive emotion to the coaching experience and the direction the client's taking.
So this is a common question that comes up with coaches, is how do you get consistency from your clients with the check-in process, be it daily or weekly check-ins? Are there any strategies that you utilize to help make sure that you're getting, those daily check-ins and weekly check-ins from clients?
Sure. So one of the big things we just built out was literally an expectations video or lesson in the app. So when a client starts now, we go straight off the burner with, this is what my most successful 10% clients do. And when you look at the level I work at, my most successful clients are top percent shredded bodybuilders and athletes in the country. So if we're setting that standard of like, hey, this is what the elite 10% are doing that I work with to get to this result, in and amongst that are answers that you can get towards that are going to produce the same result. And the funny thing is, it's not, how many drugs they're taking or how much supplementation or what's their nutrition split, what's their macros. It's very simple things like communicating with the coach, being coachable, being accountable, checking in, reporting your information, things like, what else do we have in there? Informing me of things that are changing, keeping me up to date in your life, things that are going to impact our ability to work together, because I'm a big believer that coaching is a duality. It's a team relationship. It's not a dichotomy. It's not a dictatorship. Those things are going to impact my ability to coach you. So straight off the bat, I'm laying that foundation of this is what's expected because this is what the 10% of my best clients get. And if that's what they're doing, then I expect the same of you. And we're going to build towards that. But then I think with that, the biggest way that I can connect with a client to have them understand is play on that emotional value response. You're paying for a service, you're paying for X, but you won't get the most of that unless you give me. I can only give you so much and only reach such a value point if you don't provide me the necessary information. So the more you give me, the more I'm able to give you. And so I'll anchor that to this idea. If you only give me 50%, I can only give you 50% back. If you give me 100%, I'll give you 150. You will get more information in a week than you could possibly understand. Not that that's a good thing, but just kind of exaggerate the point. If you provide me all the necessary information that I need to do my job, I will ensure that what you perceive as the value you get from us is mind-blowing. But if you're not giving me everything I need, then I can't give you that value and I can't make the most of our interaction, and it's going to take us longer to get to where we're going.
I'd recommend this to any coaches or even clinicians out there that are looking to build a business around a product that they already really believe in.
As a brand new user, just being sold on the streamline of being able to put everything in a centralized location, anyone that is just fumbling with Google Sheets to Facebook messages, group messaging, text messaging.
For anybody that wants to be able to coach their clients, many times you use different tools and resources, and when you're trying to manage that, even on a Google Sheet or on regular technology, you're limited on duplicating the data over and over.
I think if I'm going to, recommend the app for anyone, it's me myself. If I want to take my business to the next level, so definitely looking to do that in the near future here. Everybody can really benefit from it. I use it in the rehab sphere, but I also utilize it in the training thing. You can do the same thing with nutrition, right? There's so many uses for it.
For everybody, coaches, clinicians, anyone that kind of works in the industry, chiros, PTs, trainers.
This is one simple solution that we can create to all of our users and all our clients.
So if you want to create a way to systematize your business so you can scale, I have not seen a better product for that.
Yeah, I like that. I think the expectation thing that you said earlier is something right from the get that a lot of coaches miss, is setting the expectation and, hey, here's how we get the most out of this relationship. And especially getting the client to agree to that. Hey, did you understand this? Do you agree? Awesome. Cool. Like, we're on the same page. We're going to work well together, right? If from the beginning they're like, hey, I don't know if I can, then it's probably like, hey, we're not a good fit, and I'll recommend you do a different coach. But around here, this is how we do things. So I think setting that expectation early can reduce a lot of problems down the road. Because then when you call the client on it, they understand it too. Go ahead.
I want to add that to that point because I think it's a fantastic point that, something that took me a long time. And again, conversations like this, they're designed to bridge the gap between A to B, which is obviously as a new coach to where you want to be. That's the point of these conversations. The amount of time that I spent bending the knee and trying to adjust to a client instead of having them meet me, right? So if we spend all that time meeting the client where they are, but staying there, we're not raising them. We're not building them up. We're not improving them. It's important to meet the client where they are for sure. Hey, right now, getting 7 days a week of data out of you is probably impossible because you have 3 kids, a full-time job, you study at night, you do this, that, and the other, and we're just getting you consistent. We go in the gym. Okay, but can I get 2 or 3 days? But from that, I'm not keeping you here. The expectation is going to be that I'm moving towards a system where we get consistent accountability because that's how you get a result. So I think a lot of the time, we're so scared as early coaches to make a statement or risk losing that client. But in the short term, it's great. You start making money. You get the responses from clients. You get the money come through the door. Long term, they're not serving you. They're not getting a result. They're not marketable. They're not engaged. They're not excited. They're definitely not motivated. So the more we try and bend the knee, but also stay there with the client, the less we get from them and the less we get long term. So being clear on, hey, I'm happy to meet you at this level. I've got clients that one of them started with me. She was only tracking her weight 1 day a fortnight because that was when she saw a coach in person. I'm like, hey, that's great. I understand why he's done that, but that's not how I operate. So we're going to start with 3 days a week. And before she finished with me, she only just finished with me last week. She had 430 days consistent of all data on the Coach Catalyst app. But when she started with me, it was 3 days a week tracking her weight because I didn't want to trigger any psychological issues or any underlying issues that may have come up that was associated with her weight on a scale before we started anything like physique composition coaching. So it's inherently important to understand that you can meet the client where they are, but it's our responsibility, especially if we're going to get the most out of them data-wise, and get that check-in process, that accountability. It's going to be essential for us to meet them there and then raise them to the standard we need them to be at. Right. It's fine to understand that not every client is going to be an elite coachable athlete straight off the bat. Some people have never had coaching their entire life, but from that, we have to build them to the exceptional level that they can operate at so that A, we get that potential out of them, and B, they get the result they're paying for.
I love that. So kind of moving into some operations and systems inside of your business right now, what does personnel look like? Are you doing most of the coaching? Do you have assistant coaches? Do you have other coaches? What does that look like?
So the internals right now, we've got myself. So for terminology, it's really just dick flexing, but I'm head coach, prep coach, head educator, and I put all the content out for the online institute we have. I put all the content, the lectures together. And I also have Brooklyn, who's head of marketing. She's director of marketing. That's her role. So she does everything from pretty much making me look pretty, knowing where I've got to be and kind of what we're talking about. She puts the slides together, puts the presentations together, puts the social media content together. I just say it, speak it, or write it. She makes it all fancy. She's got the business strategies. We have weekly catch-ups and conversations about what podcast makes sense. What are we trying to do? Who can we give back to? Where do we want the information to be going? Marketing strategies for YouTube, Instagram, etc. We've got an assistant coach, Tom. So Tom was me and Tom are very good friends, one of my best mates. And we're at the point now where he'll assist with posing practice with clients. He trains in the same facility as me, the same facility as a lot of our clients train at. He's attending comp prep days, so show days, competition days. So he'll be there as kind of an assistant coach as well. He's got a few of his own clients in the system as well. And then we also have a VATA that kind of works as my weekly schedule management, system management, administration. And us four have kind of really helped the system expand and kind of build everything we need. So, a big information piece that I learned early on in the business was replace your first 5, hire your first 5 positions on the idea of giving you back time to be more effective. So for us, it was like, what are the day-to-day things that I don't need to do, or that I can get someone else to do, or that isn't really serving my ability to coach better, but is necessary for the business? And, obviously a big essential one is marketing strategies and business strategies, stuff like that. So once me and Brooklyn are clear on kind of where we want to go, she pulls all that together. That's her thing. And I just execute. When it comes to the administration side, getting caught up in the weeds of like, who's paying bills, what invoices are owed, what's Stripe looking like this month, what's our quarterlies looking like, what's our profits and losses. I love numbers, but it doesn't serve me as a coach to be caught up in that stuff and try to understand those things. And so we pretty much outsourced that as soon as we had the financial availability and the processes too. And so now our TAVA has that and basically runs most of my schedule, runs most of my day, runs most of my administration, is constantly looking at our systems and how to improve them, where the kinks are. And that's really just allowed us to now just scale and keep growing.
So, for you guys, what do you feel? How many clients do you feel like, because you're still like a one-to-one model. And so how many clients do you feel like you can serve with the current infrastructure and still like enjoy life?
So I think it's important to preface for anyone listening is like, and I've had a lot of debates, discussions, conflicts with people. My life is designed to live and breathe coaching other people, learning about other people, operating myself at a high level. Like this is what we do and only do. So when I usually give, advice or data or numbers on these topics, it's kind of important to preface first that my fun is this. When I see growing the business, when I see systems are improving, positive feedback, I see clients are getting results. I'm at uni, I'm studying human behavior. These things are what I consider my fun. So for us, that's the difference for a lot of people. They kind of want that lifestyle balance or that, that work-life balance, that 50-50. So it's important to kind of understand there before you even preface numbers that our life is literally predicated on seasons of coaching and study, or even my own training. So I'm about to come up to prep soon. So like that'll change things a little bit, but it's important to kind of lay that foundation before you hear the data. But for us, like it's at that one-to-one models and the way in which we coach now, anywhere from 40 to 60 has been easily tolerated, where service hasn't dropped off, where provision hasn't gone backwards, and we're able to kind of give the same level of value or perceived value to the client with very minimal hiccups. No system is perfect, no coach is perfect. I know I've slipped up before and made mistakes, but from those mistakes, I've been able to recognize where I can be even more efficient and effective. And so anywhere from that 40 to 60 mark so far, I've still been able to maintain my GPA, attend client shows, be with them on comp days, fly around the world, go to America, be on presentations, do the extracurricular stuff that helps grow the business and still ensure that I'm providing to the clients that we have.
Right.
As a coach that runs challenges, I needed my life back. I had stuff all over the place. A Facebook group for community interaction, Google Sheets for check-ins and measurements, and was drowning in email communication. As my challenges grew past just a handful of people, I started to notice clients were falling through the cracks. I began researching virtual assistants because I just couldn't manage it all. And truthfully, the client experience was going down the drain. Luckily, a friend recommended Coach Catalyst and just told me to trust her. I'm sure glad I did. Now I can run my challenges with 2 or 200 clients with just a few clicks. The lessons get delivered on the right days, the accountability happens automatically, and most importantly, the communication is all in one spot. I even created 2 new challenges from the Coach Catalyst library. Best part, didn't have to change a thing. I used to spend 15 minutes just trying to log into all the apps I needed. Now I log in and my dashboard tells me who needs a shout out and who needs a kick in the butt in about 15 seconds. I feel like a huge weight is lifted off of my shoulders. I can finally spend my time coaching again instead of worrying about all the admin work. Do your brain a favor and get Coach Catalyst.
No, I like that. I think that gets some good context. And so kind of on that note, you've done some things as far as maybe outsourcing the things that aren't either A, aren't good at, or B, not a most important task for you and your role inside of the business. Because the business is really built around you and your ability to serve clients, get them results, right? And so what are I think you've done a good job of outsourcing some of these other things. So for you, like what are your KPIs? What are your most important tasks that like you need to make sure that you're doing on a regular basis?
So for me, the biggest KPIs are obviously client engagement, check-ins, and accountability. So I have allocated days. So every client, when they start up, gets given an allocated day for check-in. And that is to make sure that straight off the bat, they know the expectation is on this day is when you receive information from me, but also it's when I expect information from you. Now, you'll be giving me information all week, but we're not going to address it until the check-in. The other thing
that's when you're doing like your video. That's when like you're doing the video response based upon the information that they're giving you. Okay.
Yeah. So that's Loom Day check-ins, which they then come to associate with the allocated day. They know it around a certain time they expect that video. It starts to come in. They get conditioned to know that, hey, that's the clear expectation and outcome that we're looking for. So that's obviously KPI one. Biggest thing for us is instead of consistently seeking new clients is always serving the clients you have first. I think that's a big mistake that coaches in the online space trying to worry about is how do I go through client acquisition, lead development, funnel all these new leads so that I can get all these clients? Well, if your churn rate is low and your retention model is high, you shouldn't need to market that many clients. So take care of who you have first before you go looking for others. And that's been a big philosophy of ours to ensure that even if I do cool things like travel the world, I do my absolute best. If it means staying up till midnight, 1 a.m. in the morning to do check-ins, send data, be awake for clients, I'll do that to ensure we take care of who we have. That's KPI one. Then we have client engagement. So at least twice a week, I want to be inside either the app or individual check-ins with a client outside of their check-in video. I believe there's a nice touch point ratio where communicating with the client too much has them feeling like they're being babied or they're being micromanaged or like, I feel like I've got to check in with them all the time. 1 to 3 times a week is a nice radius for me or ratio for me where I'm just seeing how the week is doing. I'm just seeing, hey, what's the group up to? How are you all doing towards your goals this week? Is there anything you need from us as coaches? But also like one of the fun things that we have in our group chat and our system, our community is that people tend to take the piss. They, give me a bit of crap. They rip on me. They bond over, I'm the guy that ruins their life, having them do cardio. They're going to give it back to me in the group chat and kind of like team up. So that interaction is designed to build and foster community engagement and also feel connection with the client. So we try and push that as well to make sure that's up. And then at least 5 days a week is content has to go out. So the first two are designed to basically get our clients' result and make sure that they're accountable to our system. And then the next one is realistically about trying to be out there, put that reach out there and make sure that we're engaging with the greater or outer community that we have. So one of the things I think that people don't understand is once you've identified who you serve and who your ideal client is, the person whose life you're going to change, it is now your responsibility to find them and put the thing out there that's going to draw them in. Because if you don't get them, the coach is probably not going to best serve them well. And the game of online coaching is very predatorial. It's very poaching based. It's very catchy, cliche content based. And if you aren't out there putting yourself in those environments and putting yourself in the conversation, it's not arrogant to think that that person needs to come to you, because if they don't, they're going to go to the wrong person. And if they go to the wrong person, they're going to get burnt on understanding what the coaching game can actually be. And that's life-changing for the right people. So it's our responsibility to put that content out there, to put ourselves in that environment, that conversation, to make sure that it's at least possible for that person that we ideally work with, they can find us. And so our next sort of few KPIs starts being about that content. We have at least 2 weekly videos going out on YouTube now, all of which are free for clients, for people to listen to. It's inside our top to middle level of funnel. It's to make sure that people understand that I'm willing to give before I take, and I'll provide as much information as possible for free. And then obviously we have our Instagram content that goes out, and that kind of covers 4 key KPIs that take care of who we have and then really help grow the business. And that's because the administration side, like I said, we've outsourced that. I used to do all that stuff. We've outsourced that, taking care of that. And then your profits and losses, your margins, all that sort of thing, again, taken care of. So these key KPIs in the physique and the performance and the nutrition sort of space have allowed us to weekly take care of the clients that we have, make sure that they're getting results, and then move to content that reaches other people to bring them into that network.
So, I mean, you talked a lot about kind of the reach and communicating with the right people, right? Or getting your message to the right people. Has your avatar changed since you initially launched? Have you been more refined now after people that you've worked with? You find that, hey, I do really well with this group of people, or did it kind of stay the same?
We've probably identified 3 to 4 avatars, and it's something we'll probably refresh even at the end of this year. So I'll try to refresh after comp seasons here in Australia, so physique contests, make sure that I'm still serving the best clients that I can, make sure that my results are serving those clients. And then we'll also look at the general base level of client that we have that might not want to be a physique athlete, but they have physique goals or they have performance goals. And we'll assess that we're still working with them correctly and doing what they need and take care of them as well, or that our system provides for them. So we consistently refresh it. We consistently assess it. It has slightly changed, but it's also varied. So we've got probably more of a variety of key avatars because we identified very early on that one of our big coaching tools is we help take care of and work with a mining company in their wellness and their EPA program. So we take care of a large portion of staff health, nutrition, education, lifestyle factors at their level. So they don't need 5-6 day programs. They don't need elite physique coaching. They need wellness and lifestyle improvement to make sure they're effective and healthy on site, because that returns greater for them, but also for the business.
And pause there for a second. How did that? Because we would in US we'd call it like a corporate wellness program, right? Like you're working with a corporation to improve the health and vitality of their employee base. So how did that come about? Was that just like happenstance? Were you working with one of the C-level executives and they're like, hey, we need to do this with everybody? Like how did that? Because this is a very hot topic for a lot of coaches, and I think corporate wellness is a very lucrative, like it can be a very smart play for a lot of coaches because the right business will pay well in order for you to do this. And it's kind of a one-to-many strategy. So tell me, give me more on that.
Yeah. So with that one, the fortunate side for me, it's a mixture of happenstance and my desire to help. So one of the areas I've always been passionate about is men's health, physical health, and kind of improving that domain. And the other side is that one of the guys at the C-suite level, who's one of the operations manager for this company, is one of my closest friends who was also a client for Matter. He put me in touch with some of the other directors who they basically had the company first and he moved in, and he sort of put me in front of them and said, hey, we want to be different as a company and we want to give back to our staff. Like they all quit their jobs and the people they work with because it was very much the mining industry in Australia can be churn and burn. Basically, pump people through the door, dig them into the ground, exhaust them, and then send you on your way when it's ready to quit. They wanted to recognize that mining is a very important thing in Australia, but it's also its own community, its own thing. And there's a different approach you can take to it, which is take care of your team, take care of your staff, give back, care about them. So I was lucky in the sense that I was already working with someone in the higher level, but I was delivering a service that he recognized was, hey, this needs to go to the rest of our team. Put me in the conversation with one of the other directors. And once he included on that there was a genuine care and passion about improving men's health, because in Australia, I think the suicide rate at the moment is 6 out of 11. No, sorry, that's wrong. It's 80% of suicides are male, and you're looking at the vast majority of them coming from construction and trade industries. And then with that, inside mining, because of the fly in, fly out work, the time away from families, you're seeing a large portion of that mental health breakdown, suicide, grief, and loss coming from that industry. So a big thing for me was I can, for lack of better terms, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, take care and help men's health, and also recognize that miners in Australia can be healthier and take care of themselves, and help with a company that wants to give back and care. So I think once the director had that conversation and realized like this was something serious, we started getting our foot in the door with a variety of their clients and sort of laying that foundation. So it's a route that's helped sustain us, but it's also something I can passionately give to that isn't just performance. So that to me was like, that was a huge avatar for us. Was we already had and already have history with serving a lot of fly in, fly out workers, miners, tradies, construction workers. We've even got a lot of work with in-field ADF, so Australian Defence Force, a lot of retirees, and a lot of Defence Force active personnel. And then, so the wellness group kind of really ticked one of those avatars we already had, just at a bigger scale. So rather than having to market and find 20, 30, 40 miners or shift workers, we're working with a company one-to-one that lets me reach them at a one-to-many, where I don't have to funnel market, I don't have to reach market, I don't have to be out there so much. I can focus on taking care of them. And in response to that, they obviously recognize we deliver something good. Hey, this guy doesn't look like he takes care of himself, but he really wants to work for us. Let's involve you and put him into the program. We're going to pay for it. You take care of him and make sure that he's improving, getting better, and provide us with reports. The cool thing about those guys is they wanted it so badly. They wanted to push this health concern so badly that if clients drop in accountability, because the Coach Catalyst app provides ratios, percentages of accountability, completion rates, if I start to identify staff are dropping off, it's a reflection of them and their interest of the company that the company is willing to pay to take care of them. They're not giving back to the company. So that reflection, that data identification is also used by the company to either keep staff or not. So if you're not willing to invest in yourself and take care of your health, you're likely not willing to invest and take care of yourself on site or represent the company in the right way. And so we don't really want you to be a part of our team. Culture we're building is everyone showing up on site, taking care of themselves, happy to be here, wants to work with the team, be involved in the process. So the ones they put through, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. We want to put you into the system, but with that comes a degree of accountability and responsibility that you're also going to step up and do the work. And if you're not doing the work on yourself, you're probably not doing the work on site. And so that's kind of been a really powerful tool for them to push that team culture and accountability and also help staff get improvement in health. So it's a nice win-win for both sides, us and the mining company.
Right. And how big is this company? Like, how many employees does this company have?
So they're not massive. So we've kind of grown with them, which has been cool to see. We've had anywhere from as low as 4 clients up to 20 clients from them through the door. And considering, in Australia, especially the senior, older, more veteran miners, they're not really concerned with, changing habits and building new systems. We're trying to attack that newer age staff that are coming through the door that could probably, that want to do mining long term. We don't want them to be the same position where their body's broken, withered, and just depleted by the time they're 50 or 60. So at the staff level, they're I think anywhere from including contractors to about 40 to 60 people every week. And we're looking at that's about to expand drastically. They're sending us straight off the bat the ones that they feel best benefit, not the ones that are going to cause problems. So they know they've got a guy that's like, they're no interest in really changing, but their skill set builds a company. And it's like, they're already pretty okay healthy-wise. They're not stressing about it. But the guys coming through, they think are really benefit, need it, or perhaps will benefit from it long term. They're putting them through the system. We have a call, we have contact. Hey, there's new guys coming in, getting in the system as soon as possible. And so for us, that's basically like phone calls this week. Their initial system, their initial program is in the system the following week. It's basically with how simple it is to improve lifestyle habits for most miners and flame workers. It's very minimal advanced programming or advanced nutrition strategies. It's like, how do I get you to sleep more and eat some more vegetables and fruit at the mess hall? So very easy process to start taking care of the health that we've now just identified and sort of figured out. I can help many with very minimal requirements. And in fact, a lot of the time I've kind of pre-built programming and then just keep them accountable to that system.
Right. So you're bringing them into like your one-to-one coaching model, but you have probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but you potentially have like a structure or a curriculum that you typically take a person in this situation through, right? Is that accurate? So it probably takes a little less time than a true kind of one-to-one.
Yeah, exactly right. And we incentivize the discount with them, obviously. And this is just, any business will learn this. And if you're going to work with someone who has a large ability to provide for you, meaning like they can buy in bulk or they can provide you a large amount of clients, we just basically did a 10% discount for them and said, hey, per person that comes through the door, we'll take 10% off because it's going to give them a bit of a kickback. Every 10th client basically is free, but at the same time, it puts those numbers through our door and we work with them on a larger scale. So because of that, it's easy to handle the load of clients. And now that we've sort of fine-tuned the process and have that system to walk them through, we can advance it based on the client. So if they're a staff member that wants to train more or wants to take it to the next level, once those baseline behaviors are built, we still work with them. Hey, sweet, we can do X, Y, Z. But the initial phase of it all, regardless of level of client, is we're teaching the fundamentals of how to sustain or build health, sustain health and wellness for site, because then what we find is they take it home to their families. So even though I'm not directly working with the wife and the kids, I impact those men or the people on site. Chances are it impacts the greater network of their people anyway, because they're taking it home now. So we might serve 10 to 20 people, but it goes home and helps 30, 40 more. And that to me is still a pretty fulfilling association that, we've got guys on site wanting to learn how to eat better, be more nutritious, take care of their health, take care of their body composition. In order for them to do it at home, the wife has to be involved. The kids are probably on board. The activity levels go up. They go for afternoon walks. They go on to play basketball. They go on to kick the football. So we're getting a two-pronged, health response in that we're taking care of the individual, which is what's being paid for. And then by association, those behaviors and traits are now being taken home and helping other people. So it's on my fulfillment bucket, a very big tick that we get to be a part of.
No, that's really cool. And it's interesting how you guys structure it too, where it's really just fits in with your one-to-one coaching. And even a 10% discount is not, that's marketing, right? You're going to spend that money to acquire new clients. And if you don't have to spend the money to acquire new clients, they're essentially giving them to you, right?
Exactly.
Chalk it up as a marketing cost and move on. And so, okay, that's super interesting. And this, now kind of a follow-up question to that. Why haven't you raised your prices since the beginning? I would assume that you're a better coach now than you were 4 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. A much better coach now than I was. But at the same time, I think I still delivered a very high value service and a lot of high resource service back then. But the thing for me, and I guess a lot of business coaches will probably challenge me on this, and that's fine. I've had those discussions, but the dollar amount isn't the reason I coach. So at the moment, for the place where I want to get to, the results that I will get, the clients that I will have consistently, there will probably be a point in time where to get that more elite guy to buy in, that more elite girl to buy in, there'll be a higher contract price. That's fine. I'll have that availability. But the price we have in Australia, which is, especially in an economy like now, is still a lot of money for most people here, especially with the level that we work at, because we work the level where we start with them and build them up. Very few times they have an excess of cash where they're like, hey, I can afford all these things. We've worked with people that have quit jobs, started their own businesses, through our coaching have learned how to do those things, go work for themselves as a coach, go work for themselves as physios, as treatment, like some sort of physical treatments, start construction companies, start painting companies. We've got a lot of people improve their life through us. The dollar amount is more about their buy-in than it is my financial freedom. And I haven't felt the need to chase an increase in bottom dollar versus the level of fulfillment that I get in watching them succeed and grow. So for a large part, we're comfortable with what we're doing, and we're making more than enough that it's sustainable. I'm able to help the people that I help and get the results that I get. And no one's really pushed back on price as we've increased results and services or systems that we've put in. And to me, that's enough. So my big, if I could do this for free, I would, without question, do it for free. If I've always asked the question of myself, like, if finances weren't an issue, if profit margins weren't an issue, and all my bills were covered, what would I do? And my answer doesn't change whether there's money involved or not. So for me, the passion, the purpose, and I think the excitement that comes through is probably recognized by a lot of our clients. And so that price point is kind of like, that's also what you're paying for. At this level, you're paying for someone who gives more shit about you succeeding than whether or not they make money. And so, I'm a big believer that over time, the money will come. But a mistake that coaches make is they pursue cash and they pursue chasing the dollar, which is fine. We all have bottom dollar needs. We all have financial needs, but they chase their tail chasing cash, trying to secure clients. I'm a big believer that if you flip it and chase fulfillment and chase passion and get results, the money eventually comes. And so that's a big approach that we've sustained the entire way. It's something that I think we'll probably continue on until it's at the point where, I need to get a pro bodybuilder locked in and know that I'm of the, there's obviously that financial value perception where it's, a higher ticket item means a higher result and a more professional coach. That will probably happen. And I've got no doubts it'll head in that direction where that's probably what's going to occur. But for now, what we've been able to do, this company has sustained us flying around the world. We've been able to do 2 trips now to America, present on stages, meet people, travel pretty much, I think in total over 2 trips, we've done something like 60,000 kilometers. So, we've been able to do all these cool things that I have never done in my entire life. And the company, the people we're working for and the results we're getting are facilitating that. So to me, do I need more? Or is it I'm just trying to grab an extra cash? Because the system can serve more people. The system can handle more people. We can work at greater levels. So until I'm at the capacity point where I'm like, this is affecting too much of my life, I can't serve 120 people, then price point goes up. We bring on more coaches and have a profit share. Either one of those systems to me becomes available that we're weighing up. And I'm sure that point is getting close. But for me, it's the service has been consistent. I've decreased some of the availability of service options, meaning like I'll do less phone calls, I'll do less like weekly catch-ups. But on the back end, you still get a result through the services we've adapted. So you're still getting a result. You're paying for a result. You're not paying for a product. And so as a results-based system, that's probably more of what you're paying for than you are the individual, the items inside the product that we're selling. And so that to me is where the price points kind of stayed the same, is because I've taken away a little bit, but I've increased on the back end where you get the result and the systems and the processes. So really it's kind of balanced itself out. So in my eyes, it kind of stays the same.
Right.
The Super Coach Summit by Coach Catalyst is.
The Super Coach Summit by Coach Catalyst is.
The Super Coach Summit by Coach Catalyst is.
The Super Coach Summit by Coach Catalyst is room for opportunity.
It's badass.
It's fucking awesome. Over-deliver. They talked about it and they definitely did it.
Is amazing. It's just been invigorating.
Is exemplary. It's phenomenal and just a great time with great people. And you feel like in Ohana, you feel like a family.
It's unreal.
Is awesome. What will help separate the 1% from the 99% is a really well thought out event, well conceived, well planned, and well executed.
It's such an amazing event to be at in order to grow your business and network with other professionals.
It is top tier. It's one of the best I've been to in the business. It's been unbelievable, and I'm just excited to finish out the day here and keep making connections.
It's an event that you will be very happy that you have attended, because next year is going to be even better than this one.
Is freaking badass. If you're not here, you're missing out. See you next year.
Well, it's just efficiencies, right? Getting rid of the things that aren't necessarily driving results, but it might be taking time and replacing them with better processes, right? So that's awesome, man. This has been a ton of fun. So I love the passion. I really love the love for the game. Like at the end of the day, like you're playing the game and you love the game, and it shows in your client results. It shows in your retention rate. It shows in how you're giving back to the industry. So thank you for that, man. Let's
I appreciate that.
Let's finish up with some like just rapid fire. Completely, we're gonna change topics completely. These are actually gonna be kind of fun. Did you look at these before or no?
I think I did when you sent them through, but that off the top of my head, you're still going to hit me.
All right.
And I'll guess.
I don't ask them all, so I'll pick a couple good ones. So the first one I always ask is taco, burrito, or quesadilla, which is going to be an interesting question because I don't know if Mexican food is popular in Australia.
It is. We have Tex-Mex, like just down the road from us is a place called Guzman's. It's kind of like you actually have a place called Tex-Mex, I think, or Uncle Joe's Kitchen or something. Burritos, soft shell. Sorry, what do you? Yeah, burritos. Yeah.
Yep, burrito. Okay. All right, I like it. Yes. All right. If you came back as an animal, you were reincarnated as an animal, what animal do you come back as based upon your personality?
Oh, I mean, every bodybuilder wants to be a gorilla, but I reckon a wolf.
You say a wolf?
Yeah.
I like it. What about you? What about a wolf do you feel like embodies characteristics?
I think individually, wolves they're pretty impressive, but I think it's the leadership of a wolf pack that's probably the thing for me. Like I love being on the front leading my team and knowing that I lead from the front with all of our clients, that they see me live and breathe by the things I say that I teach them. So for me, it's like I lead by the front and I'm out in front and do the work. So I think that's probably a big thing that would resonate with me and a wolf.
I love that, man. I love it. All right. Next one. Are there any books or any purchases that you've made for under $100 that you feel like have had profound impact on your life?
Oh, I mean, we've got an entire recommended reading list on our website for that exact reason. Under $100, Coach to Coach by Martin Rooney was a fantastic read. I could not recommend that enough. There's so many. How to narrow it down. Okay, let's go Coach to Coach, Martin Rooney. I would also say 12 Rules for Life, Jordan Peterson. And I would also say, Never You Can't Hurt Me by Goggins.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, 3 books, kind of different, but also very similar, especially if you want to be in the coaching game, but also as an athlete.
I love that. Awesome. All right, last question. If you could have dinner with any person, past or present, who do you sit down with and break bread?
Oh, man. There's so many ways to take this. That's not fair. All right, let's narrow it down and say sports Jordan without question. That'd be a life-changing conversation in the space of an hour. Let's say politics or history, probably going to be Napoleon.
Okay.
And we'll throw another one out there. Current era, I'd probably say I'd sit down with Peterson just as an off-camera conversation and see, get to the depths of his thoughts.
I like it. That's awesome, man. Cool. Well, if people want to find out more about what you're doing, give me all the details.
Cool. So if you want to find out any of the free value stuff that we put out, which again, we do explicitly to make it free, find it on the website, matterathletica.com, not .com.au, global brand. YouTube, Matter Athletica, Instagram, Ben _Mayfield-Smith _, and we've got the Matter Athletica Instagram page as well. There is our the Matter Mentality podcast, which has had the joy of hosting yourself and Kane and Cav. So we've all been on there. That's on YouTube and Spotify. Actually, I think it's on all streaming platforms, which is fantastic. So we endeavor to put out as much free content as possible before we ask you for $1. So sweet. I am very much in the belief that if you were to go back and listen to our YouTube, you can pretty much coach yourself for free because there's that much information on there. So go back there, look at it, download it, listen to it, whatever. And yeah, that's pretty much where you will find us.
I love it, dude. We'll make sure we put all those in the show notes. So thanks again for coming on and getting up early. It's been an awesome conversation, Ben.
Appreciate it, bro. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Coach Catalyst podcast. If you are a coach looking to do more for your clients than just workouts, give Coach Catalyst a test drive. Try it for 14 days. Jump on call with your personal strategy coach, Ashley, and see how easy technology can be, all for free. Tell them Trevor sent you. Until next time, keep changing lives.